It is the largest planned construction project in the EU, an underground link connecting the Baltic Sea and two of its most important riparian states, Estonia and Finland, in just 20 minutes. Sounds like science fiction? In fact, this ambitious project could soon become reality. The planned Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel promises to be the longest underwater rail link in the world and could change the geopolitical landscape of Europe forever. With a length of up to 100 kilometers under the Gulf of Finland, this tunnel would replace the Swiss Gotthard Base Tunnel as the world's longest railroad tunnel and change the region forever. By comparison, the current ferry connection between Helsinki and Tallinn takes up to 2 hours plus, of course, transfer times. The tunnel would reduce this travel time to an impressive 20 to 30 minutes. And the impact of this project goes far beyond passenger transportation. It promises to revolutionize freight transport and create a direct link to the European Union's North Sea-Baltic corridor. This would create a direct axis between Berlin and Helsinki. This could significantly promote trade and economic integration in the region and at the same time permanently change geopolitics. This is because Russia would become even more attached and could be cut off even more from the Baltic Sea. But what exactly is this tunnel all about? How realistic is it in the coming years? Why would it change the whole of Europe forever? And why does Russia fear the project? We take a look at all these exciting questions in today's video. Have fun! To understand the full significance of the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel, we need to take a look at the historical ties between Estonia and Finland. Both countries share a long history, shaped by Swedish and Russian influences. These shared experiences have created a deep cultural bond that continues to this day. Even the language between the two countries is very similar, and Estonians in particular often speak Finnish. The planned tunnel would take these historic relations into a new era. A direct rail link would not only facilitate travel for leisure and shopping, but would also make it much easier to do business between Northern Europe and the Baltic states and Central Europe. The special aspect of this project is the planning for the creation of a so-called Helsinki metropolitan region. This term combines the names Tallinn and Helsinki and stands for a vision that links the two cities into an integrated urban area. Companies would be able to operate across borders, skilled workers would have more mobility and better job opportunities, and the cultural diversity of both cities could be more closely linked. The chief planner is already talking about a new Dubai and a new Silk Road, and he is no stranger to Finland. Peter Vesterbacka became rich in 2009 with the video game Angry Birds and is considered one of the stars of Finnish business life. With his startup Finest Bay Area Development, the 53-year-old not only wants to build the longest tunnel in the world, but also a completely new city in the middle. However, integration into the North Sea-Baltic corridor in particular is a crucial aspect of the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel, which would connect both countries more closely to the European Union. But what does this connection mean in concrete terms for the countries involved and the EU as a whole? The planned tunnel would not only create a physical link between two capitals, but also a strategic bridge to the heart of Europe. By being integrated into the Trans-European Transport Network, TEN-T, the tunnel would become part of a comprehensive infrastructure project aimed at improving the movement of goods and mobility within the EU. One particularly interesting aspect of the tunnel project is the planned use of standard gauge tracks with a track gauge of 1,435 millimeters. This technical decision may seem insignificant at first glance, but it has far-reaching consequences. It enables a direct connection to the Rail Baltica project, which is intended to link the Baltic states with the rest of the European rail network. Another huge infrastructure project that is already under construction, and about which I will soon be making a video. This will create a continuous rail link for freight transport, stretching from Finland to the heart of Europe. The aim is to create an axis from Berlin to Helsinki. The economic impact of this project in particular could be considerable. It is estimated that up to 12.5 million passengers a year could use the tunnel. For Estonia and Finland, this could mean a significant increase in trade and tourism, while the EU would benefit from improved connectivity in the northeastern region. Another important aspect is the potential reduction in dependence on Russian transit routes. In the past, the route via St. Petersburg or the ferry connection was mainly relied upon. However, the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel would provide a reliable and fast transport link, avoiding the need for sea transportation and further reducing dependence on Russia. Recent developments show that the countries involved have recognized the importance of this project. Back in April 2021, Finland and Estonia signed a Memorandum of Understanding to strengthen cooperation on major transport projects, including the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel. This commits both countries to work together cooperatively, and since then, planning has progressed steadily. However, while the potential benefits of the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel sound impressive, the project also faces significant challenges and controversy. One key aspect is the enormous costs associated with such an ambitious project. Estimates put the total cost at between 9 and 15 billion euros, a sum that represents a considerable financial burden for the countries involved. And financing the project is a complex issue. Experts believe that the project will only be financially viable if at least 40% of the costs are covered by the European Union. This dependence on EU funding adds an extra layer of uncertainty to the project and makes it vulnerable to political decisions at European level. Nevertheless, the feasibility study predicted that the tunnel would also bring a regional development boost of 4 to 6.9 billion euros annually. This boost to the economy ultimately outweighed the benefits, leading the report to conclude that construction should go ahead. In addition to the financial challenges, the construction of the world's longest underwater tunnel also poses enormous technical challenges. With a length of around 100 kilometers, the engineers have to overcome significant geological and technical obstacles. One particular challenge is the adaptation of different track gauges. While standard gauge is planned for the tunnel, the old existing railroads in the region use the Russian broad gauge. This means that major investments would have to be made in new tracks here too. Environmental concerns also play an important role in the discussion about the tunnel. Critics warn of possible negative effects on the sensitive ecosystems of the Baltic Sea. The construction of the tunnel could disturb the marine flora and fauna and cause long-term damage. There are also concerns about the CO2 emissions that could result from the construction and operation of the tunnel. Proponents of the project, on the other hand, argue that the tunnel would be more environmentally friendly in the long term than the current ferry service, as it could reduce CO2 emissions and lower energy consumption. Finally, geopolitical tensions surrounding the project should not be underestimated. The tunnel could reduce dependence on Russian transit routes, which is particularly important given the current geopolitical situation. At the same time, however, it could also lead to increased tensions with Russia, which fears a loss of influence in the region. This is because Moscow sees the reduction of Russian control over transport routes in the region and the merger of all surrounding states as a serious threat to its influence. Currently, however, the biggest challenges are the provision of additional funding from the EU and an environmental impact assessment, which was recently halted by an Estonian court. We know such delays all too well from German construction projects. Overall, however, it will mainly depend on the political will in both countries and in Brussels as to when and whether the construction will be carried out. However, should construction actually start in the next few years, it would certainly change the entire region permanently. And as the EU is already financing numerous other costly infrastructure projects in the region, such as Rail Baltica, it is not unlikely that funding for the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel will also be released soon.